What are you doing here?
Moving on. You killed all my business.
I thought you were the lone wolf.
What happens when on-screen lovers can't stand each other in real life? These co-star feuds are way juicier than any script. Get ready to dive into Hollywood's most infamous rivalries. And trust me, some of these will blow your mind. Number 30. Joan Crawford versus Bette Davis. Two Hollywood legends, one epic feud that spanned decades. It all started with a man and spiraled out of control. How could we not start with one of Hollywood's most legendary feuds of all? Joan Crawford and Bette Davis's feud was so infamous that it even inspired an FX show called Feud. The rivalry between the two silver screen actresses reportedly began in 1935 over a man when Bette fell in love with her co-star Francois Tone on the set of the movie Dangerous, only for Joan to quickly marry him shortly after the film was wrapped. Of course, the two actresses' feud didn't end there. Their rivalry reached its most famous heights during the filming of their 1962 movie Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, where things reportedly got intense on set. The pair allegedly got physical on set and outright tried to hurt each other while filming certain difficult scenes. When Bette got nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for her role, Joan then hatched a plan so that she was able to go on stage to accept the very same award on behalf of the winning actress Anne Bancroft. The pair never worked with each other again, but had many things in common. Both of them were strong women, good actresses, and, according to their daughters who published memoirs, bad mothers. Some people think that Crawford actually had a sexual interest in Davis, and her complicated feelings came out as hatred, but no one will ever really know. The two stars reportedly never made amends before they died.
Come on, Oscar. Let you and me get drunk.
Number 29. Sean Young and James Woods. Sean Young and James Woods' on-screen chemistry turned into real-life animosity. But this feud wasn't just gossip. It went to court. While filming The Boost, where they portrayed a married couple entangled in addiction, things got heated between Sean Young and James Woods, leading to a legal battle. Woods accused Young of stalking him, claiming she left a mutilated doll at his home, while Young maintained it was all because Woods had an unreciprocated crush on her. She alleged that when she rejected his advances, he turned bitter, and that's what fueled his claims. The two eventually settled the lawsuit out of court, with Woods agreeing to pay Young $227,000 in legal fees. Even though the matter was resolved legally, the rumors and accusations lingered for years. Woods continued to bring up the incident in interviews, while Young maintained her version of events, insisting she was unjustly painted as a stalker. Accusations and rumors would circle for years.
Bust up our date at the pizza parlor. Next thing I know, you're having lunch with my girlfriend.
Oh, from what I can see, he's probably a better cop.
Number 28. Sean Young and Harrison Ford. What happens when on-screen lovers can't stand each other off-screen? For Harrison Ford and Sean Young, it led to an infamous hate scene. In Ridley Scott's sci-fi classic Blade Runner, Sean Young and Harrison Ford played lovers in a dystopian future, but the tensions between them were very real. According to crew members, their disdain for each other was so palpable that their passionate love scene was jokingly renamed the hate scene by those on set. While the exact reasons behind their animosity were never publicly confirmed, both actors reportedly clashed over their vastly different personalities. Young was known for her boldness and eccentricities, while Ford was famously reserved and serious. Rumor has it that their contrasting styles led to friction throughout filming. Over the years, Young has hinted that she found Ford aloof, while Ford has remained largely silent on the matter. Despite their on-screen chemistry, the two maintained a cold distance off camera, rarely interacting unless necessary.
Harrison was a big pain in the butt.
Number 27. William Shatner and George Takei. Space may be vast, but the USS Enterprise wasn't big enough for these two. Shatner and Takei's feud has lasted decades. Die-hard Trekkies were obsessed with the camaraderie on the USS Enterprise. But as it turns out, not everyone aboard the starship was on good terms. Most notably, Shatner and Takei spent much of their tenure on Star Trek giving each other the cold shoulder, and the bad blood only grew over time. In his 1994 autobiography, To the Stars, Takei claimed that Shatner was self-centered and egotistical. He also appeared on many television shows to roast his former castmate. Shatner didn't pull any punches either. In an interview, the actor behind Captain Kirk went in on his co-star. "There's such a sickness there. It's so painfully obvious that there's a psychosis there," he said. "There must be something else inside George that is festering, and it makes him so unhappy that he takes it out on me. In effect, a total stranger." Number 26. Lucy Liu and Bill Murray. They were angels on screen, but anything behind the scenes. Liu and Murray's clash became one of Hollywood's most talked about blow-ups. In the 2000 reboot of Charlie's Angels, Lucy Liu played one of the infamous angels, while comedian Bill Murray took the role of their handler, Bosley. When Murray was replaced by Bernie Mac for the 2003 sequel, Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, there was much media speculation as to why the previously successful team had been broken up. Rumors started to surface of a blazing on-set row between Murray and Liu when he supposedly criticized her acting, although he maintains that his criticism was actually aimed at the ridiculous lines all the actors were being asked to say. Murray was fired after constantly berating Liu's acting skills on the set of the movie. Tensions came to a head when Murray stopped in the middle of a scene, pointed at Drew Barrymore and Cameron Diaz saying, "I get why you're here, and you've got talent," and then pointing at Liu and saying, "But what in the hell are you doing here? You can't act." Reacting to that, Liu flew at Murray and the two traded punches until they were physically separated. Murray was fired, or quit depending on who you talk to, shortly after, and was replaced by Bernie Mac. Liu revealed on a 2021 episode of the Los Angeles Times Asian Enough podcast that Murray made unacceptable and inexcusable insults to her on set. Number 25. Robert Shaw and RichardDreyfus. Who knew that a movie about a killer shark would bring out the worst in its stars? Shaw and Dreyfus couldn't see eye to eye. Robert Shaw and RichardDreyfus were very different actors and, at their cores, very different people. They simply didn't get along on the set of Jaws, and the difficulties of filming the movie would have tried anyone's patience anyway. They constantly bickered. Later, the play The Shark is Broken told the story of the making of Jaws and the tensions on set. However, at that point, Dreyfus denied the fact that there had ever been a feud. He told Vanity Fair in 2023 that although he once threw Shaw's drink overboard and got hosed down as a result, that was not a feud. Shaw died in 1978, so no one knows what he thought of the whole incident.
Robert was competitive about everything and anything, and so I guess he might have been competitive about the reviews.
Number 24. Sophia Loren and Marlon Brando. When two Hollywood legends collide, sparks fly. But for Loren and Brando, the tension came from an unexpected place. When filming the romantic comedy A Countess from Hong Kong, Loren detailed in her memoir, Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow, My Life, an uncomfortable day on set when her co-star groped her. All of a sudden, he put his hands on me. I turned in all tranquility and blew in his face, like a cat stroking the wrong way, and said, "Don't you ever dare do that again, never again." She continued, "As I pulverized him with my eyes, he seemed small, defenseless, almost a victim of his own notoriety. He never did it again, but it was very difficult working with him after that." Number 23. Sarah Jessica Parker and Kim Cattrall. On screen, they were inseparable friends. Off screen, though, Parker and Cattrall's relationship was anything but friendly. Rumors swirled that the two Sex and the City actresses weren't great friends in real life, with claims that Cattrall had become upset when she learned that Parker earned more than her co-stars. In November 2009, Parker publicly denied the feud, telling Elle, "I don't think anybody wants to believe that I love Kim. I adore her. I wouldn't have done the movie without her." Years later, talks of a third Sex and the City movie in the works were shut down when rumors about Cattrall being a diva started circulating. Hollywood gossip insinuated that the film wouldn't happen because she was holding up negotiations with her demands. Cattrall took personal offense to the rumors and fired back by throwing some shade Sarah Jessica Parker's way. This is really where I take to task the people from Sex and the City, and specifically Sarah Jessica Parker, in that I think she could have been nicer. I really think she could have been nicer. I don't know what her issue is. I never have. Number 22. Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams. They may have played a perfect couple on screen, but Gosling and McAdams were far from it behind the scenes. Here's why. The romance between Noah and Allie had fans swooning when The Notebook was released in 2007. However, those old romantics who fell in love with the duo's love affair probably didn't realize just how much acting went into both of their performances. During filming, Gosling apparently hated his co-star so much that he repeatedly called for her to be removed from the set and even begged the director to find someone else to play the role of Allie. Ironically, Gosling and McAdams actually ended up dating for 4 years after filming wrapped up. But I doubt they will be working alongside each other anytime soon.
And I don't know anything about women, and I know Nick doesn't know anything about women.
Number 21. Selma Blair and Charlie Sheen. The title Anger Management was more than fitting for these two. Blair and Sheen's off-screen tension became the talk of the town. The Anger Management co-stars rather fittingly battled their own anger issues behind the scenes of the show, and things got so heated that Sheen, an executive producer on the show, even reportedly refused to work with Blair and insisted she be fired, which she was. According to The Hollywood Reporter, after Blair questioned Sheen's work ethic, he dismissed her via a strongly worded text and called her a cunt. Number 20. B. Arthur and Betty White. They may have been Golden Girls on screen, but B. Arthur and Betty White's relationship was anything but golden in real life. The Golden Girls, B. Arthur's Dorothy, was often frustrated with Betty White's ditzy Rose, and apparently that extended into real life as well. Arthur didn't really get along with White because their personalities were just too different. White was bubbly like Rose, and Arthur was stern like Dorothy. Arthur was also reportedly annoyed at the Golden Girls making cracks about her looks all the time, and resented it when White won an Emmy for the show and she did not. In 2011, White told Times Talk, "She found me a pain in the neck sometimes. It was my positive attitude. Sometimes, if I was happy, she'd be furious." Number 19. Tony Curtis and Marilyn Monroe. When asked about kissing his co-star, Tony Curtis compared it to kissing Hitler. Just how bad was this on-set animosity? You would think when asked what it was like to kiss your co-star, you would say something nice. But Tony Curtis didn't go that route. The actor said of his Some Like It Hot co-star, Marilyn Monroe, it was like kissing Hitler. Before filming the famous movie, the pair had actually dated in real life, but the feelings had changed by the time they started shooting. She'd gone funny. Her mind was all over the place, he said. He then spoke about the scene in which the couple kisses on a yacht, saying, "It was awful. She nearly choked me to death by deliberately sticking her tongue down my throat into my windpipe." Number 18. Will Smith and Janet Hubert. Will Smith may have been the Fresh Prince, but his relationship with Janet Hubert was anything but fresh. Find out what led to this infamous recasting. Will Smith and his Fresh Prince of Bel-Air co-star Janet Hubert had an infamously strained working relationship, which ultimately led to her character being recast in season 4. Hubert said she would never reprise the role for a reunion show, claiming that the Hollywood icon is an egomaniac. Smith maintains that he never purposely offended her. In 1993, he offered an Atlanta radio station some insight into the bad blood between them. Hubert said once, "I've been in the business for 10 years, and this snotty-nosed punk comes along and gets a show. No matter what, to her, I'm just the Antichrist.
I can see now the level of pain and the level of struggle that it was for you.
Number 17, Robert Downey Jr. and Terrence Howard. Sometimes superhero movies have their own villains, off-screen. For Downey Jr. and Howard, it was a fight over money and respect. Terrence Howard played Robert Downey Jr.'s sidekick, Captain Rhodes, in the first Iron Man movie. But when the sequel rolled around, Howard was nowhere to be seen. Instead, there was Don Cheadle, presumably playing the same character. We're still not sure exactly what caused this very obvious split, only that Terrence Howard was very, very mad. Howard claimed Downey had him fired from the franchise when he asked to be paid fairly for his Captain Rhodes role. In response, Downey Jr. said, "I had nothing to do with that decision. I love Terrence very, very much."
Person that I helped become Iron Man to re-up for the second one took the money that was supposed to go to me.
Number 16, Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny. The chemistry between Muldy and Sculler was electric, but Anderson and Duchovny's real-life relationship had its fair share of tension. You'd have a hard time naming a more iconic TV duo than Mulder and Scully from The X-Files. Yet the actors who played the roles, David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson, actually had a notoriously difficult working relationship. However, was this because the two genuinely disliked each other? Or because of the stresses involved in a 16-hour-a-day film shoot with the same person? Certainly, Anderson's description of the relationship as being like a marriage suggests that they got on most of the time, while also having their difficult moments. Duchovny has described Anderson as a perfectionist, while Anderson was even more blunt, describing her co-star as a pain in the arse.
You mean friendly to each other?
Yeah, very friendly to each other.
Number 15, Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep. On the set of Kramer vs. Kramer, tensions ran high. But it wasn't just acting. Streep and Hoffman's real-life tension was off the charts. On the set of Kramer vs. Kramer, Meryl Streep said Dustin Hoffman wasn't easy to work alongside. Some incidents include the time when Streep got approved to make some changes to a scene by writer-director Robert Benton. When Hoffman saw the changes, he angrily shouted, per the Telegraph, "Meryl, why don't you stop carrying the flag for feminism and just act the scene?" Streep commented on the film scene of spousal abuse to the New York Times and stated how her co-star went overboard. Then, of course, there was the scene when Hoffman literally slapped his co-star. "This was my first movie, and it was my first take in my first movie. And he just slapped me," she said. And you see it in the movie. It was overstepping. Years later, while playing a game of Marry, Shag, Kill on Andy Cohen's Watch What Happens Live, Streep chose to kill Hoffman without question. Number 14, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis. It's hard to believe comedy legends could have a falling out, but Murray and Ramis' feud tore apart a legendary friendship. It may be shocking for some fans to learn that a dynamic comedy duo like Bill Murray and Harold Ramis ever had a falling out, but the legendary pair found themselves in a serious rift during the making of Groundhog Day. Murray was going through a divorce at the time, which reportedly made him quite temperamental during the film's production. Combined with creative differences and writing struggles, Murray's mood resulted in a friendship between him and Ramis. Murray and Ramis were able to bury the hatchet shortly before the latter's death in 2014. Murray also gave an impromptu shout-out to his late friend while presented the Oscar for Best Cinematographer that same year. It's still a shame, though, that their differences managed to ruin a legendary friendship and working relationship for so many years. Number 13, Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio. Romeo and Juliet may be tragic lovers, but DiCaprio and Danes' real-life feud brought a whole new meaning to Star-Crossed. Danes, who played a young Juliet, reportedly found DiCaprio, who played her on-screen Romeo, irritating and immature. She especially hated the pranks he played when cameras stopped rolling. There was no love lost on DiCaprio's side either, as he found her reserved and uptight. Although they played passionate lovers, they made sure to avoid any communication while making the movie.
I really needed another experience.
Number 12, Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepard. They played private detectives, but behind the scenes, their differences were anything but a mystery. Willis and Shepard clashed on every level. Despite their differences, Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepard managed to star together in 4 seasons of Moonlighting. The influential 80s dramedy series saw Willis and Shepard as private detectives with a tense, will-they-won't-they working relationship. Throughout the series' production, tensions were also high between the show's headlining duo, brought on by everything from simple personality clashes to Willis's breakout as a movie star. Like Richard Dreyfus and Robert Shaw in Jaws, the tense relationship between Willis and Shepard paid off on screen. The fiery back-and-forth relationship between their characters on Moonlighting was the perfect scenario to turn their personal clashes into TV gold. It made them one of the greatest couples in small screen history. Number 11, Vivian Vance and William Frawley. They were supposed to be everyone's favorite TV couple, but Vance and Frawley's real-life hatred was anything but funny. Famous for being the best friends of Lucy and Ricky Ricardo, Ethel, Vivian Vance, and Fred Mertz, William Frawley, hated each other from day one of I Love Lucy. Vance was 22 years Frawley's junior and thought they would be a terrible match as a TV couple. Frawley was a heavy drinker, and though he was warned not to drink while they were working, he often had to keep his hands in his pockets so the camera wouldn't catch them shaking from alcohol withdrawal. The two hated each other so intensely that when they had a shot at a spin-off after I Love Lucy ended, Vance said no way. Number 10, Joan Collins and John Forsythe. The glitz and glamour of Dynasty hid a darker side. Collins and Forsythe's feud was just as dramatic off-screen as their characters. On Andy Cohen's Watch What Happens Live, Collins shared that the soap opera co-stars didn't talk for an entire season. At the People's Choice Awards, we won as a whole company, and we were told that when we were all being presented with the award, it was going to be given to John. She said on the late night talk show. However, they gave it to me. He didn't like that. I said, "Oh, thank you very much. I'm going to give it to our fearless leader." And he said, "She's said enough," and that was it. It was very unpleasant. I have to say it wasn't nice.
Why didn't you like him?
I didn't like him because he was a misogynist.
Number 9, Shirley MacLaine and Deborah Winger. Sometimes the most emotional performances come from real-life tension. MacLaine and Winger's on-set battles were almost as dramatic as Terms of Endearment itself. The Terms of Endearment actresses were reportedly at each other's throats while they filmed the Oscar-winning drama, and even got into numerous physical altercations. When MacLaine won the Oscar for the Best Actress category for her role in Terms of Endearment, the feud worsened because Winger was in that same category. Ever outspoken, Winger didn't bother refuting the rumors. "I can't deny that we fought," she told the New York Times in 1986. "We challenged ourselves, and when we got tired of challenging ourselves, we challenged each other." Number 8, Tim Allen and Casey Wilson. You'd think a Hollywood movie would bring out the best in people, but for Allen and Wilson, things got icy on set. Recently, actress Casey Wilson opened up about her less than impressive experience working with Tim Allen in The Santa Clauses. Tim Allen was such a bitch, Wilson said in an episode of her Bitches podcast for Variety. "It was truly the single worst experience I've ever had with a co-star, ever." Remembering one moment, Wilson said Allen once finished a scene, then went to a producer to talk about Wilson's acting. He goes over to the producer, who is standing 4 feet from me, and goes, and I hear him, he goes, "You gotta tell her to stop stepping on my lines." She remembered. The producer turns to me with horror on his face and has to walk 1 foot to me, and he goes, Tim would like you to stop stepping on his lines." Per Wilson, She said, everybody was walking on eggshells around the actor on set. When he was done, he was so fucking rude. Never made eye contact, never said anything. It was so uncomfortable, she said. Number 7. Walter Matthau and Barbra Streisand. Comedy is serious business, but Matthau and Streisand's on-set clash was anything but funny. Here's what really happened behind the scenes of Hello, Dolly. Incredibly talented as an actress and a singer, Barbra Streisand rose to stardom quickly. When she made Hello, Dolly in 1969, she was used to calling the shots. Her co-star, Walter Matthau, had just won an Oscar for Fortune Cookie. He didn't like women running the show. I have more talent in my smallest fart than you have in your entire body, he told her, obviously intimidated by her. Matthau especially hated it when Streisand gave advice to the film's director. Matthau went to the head of 20th Century Fox, Richard Zanuck, to complain. Zanuck said, "I'd love to help you, but this is not Hello Walter we're making." Matthau apparently got over it because he attended Streisand's charity concert in 1986. Number 6. Laurence Olivier and Marilyn Monroe. Who would have thought two of Hollywood's biggest stars would clash so dramatically? Olivier and Monroe's feud was the talk of Tinseltown. Actor Laurence Olivier had starred in the stage version of The Prince and the Showgirl with his wife, actress Vivian Leigh. But when the opportunity came about to make the movie version of the play, Leigh was 43 and considered too old. Marilyn Monroe was cast as a showgirl, much to Olivier's dismay. He taunted her and berated her for being late, forgetting her lines, and needing to have her method acting coach on set at all times. But did Monroe get back at him? When she found out Olivier was secretly taking bets on how many takes Monroe would need to perform a very difficult scene, she hatched a plan. That night, Monroe went home and studied the scene extensively. When it came time to shoot, she did one perfect take, closing the door behind her as she left the room. Seconds later, she came back into the room and said, "Pretty good, huh?"
Very sweet. She's obviously very talented. Very charming. Very easy to get on with.
Number 5. Debbie Reynolds and Gene Kelly. They made dancing look effortless, but behind the scenes of Singin' in the Rain, things were far from smooth for Reynolds and Kelly. The famous musical, Singin' in the Rain, captured hearts, but it wasn't exactly a joy to make for some of its actors. In Reynolds' memoir, Unsinkable, she recalled her time on set with Kelly, writing, "He came to rehearsals and criticized everything I did and never gave me a word of encouragement." She also detailed what it was like when their characters kissed. In her memoir, she said, "Gene took me tightly in his arms and shoved his tongue down my throat. Ew, what was that? I screeched, breaking free of his grasp and spitting. I ran around frantically, yelling for some Coca-Cola to cleanse my mouth. It was the early 1950s, and I was an innocent kid who had never been French kissed. It felt like an assault. I was stunned that this 39-year-old man would do this to me." Number 4. Frank Sinatra and Shelley Winters. They were both icons in their own right, but Sinatra and Winters' explosive arguments were the stuff of legend. Shelley Winters, once a roommate of Marilyn Monroe, was the type of woman who wouldn't take no for an answer. Born to a poor immigrant family, she worked hard, first in the theater, then in film, and it paid off. She won 2 Oscars, one for The Diary of Anne Frank in 1959, and one for The Poseidon Adventure in 1972. Winters had a brassy personality and liked to kiss and tell about her romantic trysts with Marlon Brando and Sean Connery, whom she claims to have made love to on a train all the way from Liverpool to London. But she failed to charm actor and crooner Frank Sinatra when they starred together in Meet Danny Wilson in 1952. He called her a bow-legged bitch of a Brooklyn blonde, to which she said she screamed like a fishwife and slugged him. She also called him a skinny, no-talent, stupid Hoboken bastard. The two never acted together again. Number 3. Clark Gable and Vivian Leigh. They had an undeniable on-screen chemistry, But Gable and Lee's real-life relationship was much more complicated. Here's the real story behind Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind is considered by many to be the greatest film ever made. Gable and Lee's portrayals of Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara continued to enchant viewers almost 80 years after its release. But what many don't know is that Clark and Vivian weren't very fond of each other during filming. Vivian reportedly hated kissing Clark because he had bad breath. While this was seen as an issue stemming from the teeth he had to replace after years of smoking, a technician on set reported that Gable sometimes ate garlic right before his kissing scenes with Lee. As if this did not annoy her enough, the film's director reportedly had her breasts taped after Gable complained they were not to his taste. Number 2. Sir John Gielgud and Ingrid Bergman. They were both legends, but Gielgud and Bergman's relationship was anything but complimentary. Here's why he claimed she couldn't act. Despite acting with Ingrid Bergman in Murder on the Orient Express and directing her in the play The Constant Wife, Sir John Gielgud was not a fan of her work, saying Ingrid speaks 5 languages and can't act in any of them. The New York Times agreed with him in its review of The Constant Wife, saying, moreover, Miss Bergman, so interesting in her particular style of film acting, is not all that technically gifted on the stage. She has a definite presence, and certainly a vigorous personality, but is, perhaps, more of a character than a character actress. Her slight and charming Swedish intonation is no asset here. But it was Bergman who had the last laugh. She won the Oscar for her role of Greta in Murder on the Orient Express. Gielgud wasn't even nominated. Number 1. R2-D2 and C-3PO. They may be robotic besties on screen, but behind the scenes, these two actors had their own bitter feud. Here's the real drama. The robotic stars of the Star Wars universe may have spent most of their time on screen bickering, but it turns out that the actors who brought these characters to life also had a difficult relationship behind the scenes. Anthony Daniels, who brought CP3O to life, and Kenny Baker, the man inside R2-D2, actually hated each other in real life. Although, the fact that they spent hours trapped inside of their metal suits during filming didn't exactly make it easy to make friends. Apparently, Baker once suggested to Daniels that they tour the sci-fi conventions in character in order to make extra cash, and was dismissed outright.
Have a nice weekend, Tony. He said, I'm having a conversation. And walked away.
Thanks for watching. If you're hungry for more Hollywood drama, check out our other videos on infamous celebrity scandals and behind-the-scenes secrets. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a story.